Hello guys, my name is Remik, and in today's video we are going to talk about very specific and important topic, so the exception handling, and also how to create the exception middleware that will observe our request, and then if any exception occur, then it will just retrieve that information from the exception itself. It will map the proper status code, it will log this information to any destination that we configured to. So for instance, to file, to the application insights, to the event viewer, and then it will display the proper response to the end user. If you're new to the channel, then please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button down below, and also write the comment how you like this video. And now we are going straight into the topic. Okay, now we are ready to create our first custom exception, and then we're going straight to the middleware implementation. So I'll create directory called exceptions, and I'll create player not found exception. Let's say we have to inherit from the exception class, create the constructor of it, and in the parameters, remember to have the message and also the exception base constructor of the exception class, message exception. So we have our exception here, and now the middleware's directory and our exception middleware. So exception handling middleware, and it will have one method, public async task invoke async, and it will catch the HTTP context called context. And now we have to get the request delegate. So we'll create only private request delegate that will be injected to our constructor. So, and the convention name is the next. So I'm creating the constructor, so the request delegate next, typical dependency injection. And also we are going to log that information that will go through and catch the exception. So we have to also inject the logger. So private read only logger exception handling middleware, and then it will be logger, and as well we have to inject here. So exception handling middleware logger and assign here. Now the next thing to do is to create the try catch block. So this is the place that will catch our exception that can occur in our whole application, and then it will process it properly according to the one method that we'll write just in a second. So I will create the try catch block exception X, and then I'll get the next, and I'll pass the context. This is the async method, so this is, it needs to be awaited. And now I'll create the method called HandleExceptionAsync, and we have to give the context and also the exception itself. And here we are going to create the private async task handle exception that can get the HTTP context and also the exception. So exception. Now we need to create some kind of the model for our response in case of the exception that can occur. So I'll create another directory called models, and in here I'll just create an error model. So the first thing will be the error ID for us just to differentiate in our logs based on the ID. So I'll create public with, and it will be the error ID. It will be with new with. Then we need just to have the message from that exception. So public string message empty. Then we need the proper status code. So HTTP status code, set, and also public string stack trace. String empty, and also we can override the toString method just to get JSON serializer, serialize, and this. So we'll just override the toString method, just not to have this code in our exception middleware. Okay, we have also to add one more section here, so it will be the public string exception type, because this is the very important information to retrieve what kind of exception it was. So I'll just write string.empty, and going back to our exception handling middleware. So we'll create our error object. So new error. Automatically, it will generate for us new with for that error ID. So the first field will be the message. So exception.message. Next one will be the exception type. So of course, we have everything inside of the exception object. So exception get type dot name. Now the status code will be the exception switch. And here, if our exception was type of the player not found exception, then it will return for us HTTP status code dot not found. If it will be, for instance, the unauthorized access exception, then of course we have to return the HTTP status code authorized. And we can define as many exceptions as we want, and then if it will be not matched, then as the default we can return that it was internal server error. The next thing to get, and the last one, so it will be the stack trace. So we'll get the exception dot stack trace, and for sure we need to make this nullable, so everything will be all right. And now we have to log, of course, with the usage of our logger. So it will be log error, and we can just take our error object, and with the usage of our overridden toString method, it will be serialized, and then we can log this, for instance, to the application insights or to the file. And the last thing to do is to await context response write as JSON async, and we are passing the error object. Now we have to register our middleware, so I'll just write app use middleware and exception handling middleware. And also we can just create one get endpoint. So it will be map get, just write player, and it will throw new player not found exception. I was not found. So I'll simulate this kind of exception here, and the next endpoint will be, let's say, second endpoint, and it will be argument exception. So we have our two endpoints here. So we can just run our application and see what is going on. So we have two endpoints. We have the player and also the second one that will throw for us the argument exception. So the player will just try it out, and as you see, we have that kind of the exception message. So we have error ID, message, exception type, so the player not found exception, status code, the proper one, and also the stack trace. And as you see, also here we have what was logged by our logger. So that information we can just send to any destination according to our logging configuration. Okay, so now we can check the second endpoint. So the exception that was not defined in our HTTP status code switch expression. So the second one, execute, and it should have the 500. So as we see, it has the 500, so internal server error, and we have the argument exception. So this was also handled properly by our exception handling middleware. Okay guys, so that's everything for today's video. If you liked this video, it was helpful for you, then please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like button, and also write in the comment how you're actually processing, handling the exceptions in your .NET applications, and see you in the next one.